Now, when it comes to the hospital floors, like the ER and the urgent care, and even the regular hospital, they don't really know the name Logan Gaynor all that much. Luckily, it's because I don't get injured too much or get really sick all too often. However, everyone does have to visit a hospital eventually. That means making that dreaded appointment. And who do you make that appointment with? The doctor. In the eyes of the patient, the doctor is the god of the hospital, the one big man who runs the place, with an arm tied behind his back and jumping on a pogo stick. However, if you really pay attention, you'll notice that the hospital is an entire complex network of people, from the receptionist, to the nurses, janitors, and even the doctors and the head of the hospital. There's even a legal team for malpractice suits. But what you want to pay attention to is the nurses, especially when you're getting treated for a disease and such. When I went to urgent care for a dangerously high temperature, I saw nurses at a 2-to-1 ratio to the doctor. They were the ones taking my temperature and running all the tests on me that the doctor would be looking at later. I didn't see the doctor until it was time for him to try to diagnose what was wrong with me. Now, if you want to understand nurses today, you have to look at the one who really paved the road for nurses, that being Florence Nightingale. Now, one of the defining moments in her life, if you look at the Crimean War, it was during a time when there was all-time high public outcry at how wounded soldiers were being treated. She led a team of nurses to the field hospital, where they were greeted with less than pleasant greetings. However, she saw the overflowing hospital and all the wounded soldiers and how terribly they were being treated at the time. So, she took charge of her team, and they started treating the basic needs of the soldiers. They helped with them bathing and eating, and they even helped with psychological needs, such as helping them write letters to the family. In fact, with how she patrolled the hospital at night with her single lamp, waiting on the soldiers to see if anyone needs help, she garnered the name of the Lady with the Lamp. She actually became a spearhead for the basic needs and basic care of wounded and the sick in hospitals. And in fact, she created the first school that was scientifically based for teaching nurses how to nurse. Now, you'll see over time that the career of nurses has evolved as a whole. For example, not too much until recent times. In fact, during the Civil War, while there were hospitals and there were training programs in place for nurses, they weren't receiving a lot of funding at the time. So they didn't have the actual ability to train the nurses. And without this training, many of the nurses were left to taking care of the elderly, as according to Nursing School Hub. It wasn't until the 20th century when hospitals started to gain control of the training, started garnering funding from the government. Now, they started funding these training programs because coming back from the World Wars, nurses had this entire utility belt of tools in order to help treat patients. And the government saw this, and they knew they had to help the healthcare system somehow. So the training began. Looking at modern nurses, you can see how they've evolved drastically over time from being almost entirely women. They've also gained numerous specialties that they would never imagined before. In fact, there are now 104 specialties, 34 of them are out of a hospital, 68 are based around research, 37 are managerial, and 92 are patient-facing. Many of those are crossing over with each other. And this is according to DiscoverNursing.com, sponsored by Johnson & Johnson. And they've also garnered a huge amount of responsibility they would never thought of before. That being, they actually direct the patient care. They take patient notes and they coordinate with numerous of the hospital staff of how to take care of a patient, and they also administer the medication to the patients. If you look how diverse nurses are now, you'll see that they're 83% white, 6% African American, 6% Asian, 3% are Hispanic, 1% are American Indian, 1% are Native Hawaiian, and 1% are in the other category. And then also 9.6% men in the RN field. Now, nurses have come a huge way from where they were before, from being bed maids that took care of the basic needs, to where they are now, where they are practically doctors. In fact, one nursing degree you can get is a nurse practitioner, which is pretty much the same responsibilities as a doctor has. They fought through wars and disease in order to get to the training, the position, and the respect they deserve now. And they've evolved the healthcare system for the better.